Scott McClellan has a tell-all book. And in his tell-all book, this is the former White House spokesmodel, the paid liar, Scott McClellan. In his book, let me read you a paragraph. Quote, "The most powerful leader in the world called upon me to speak on his behalf and help restore credibility he lost amid the failure to find weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So I stood at the White House briefing room podium in front of the glare of the Klieg lights for the better part of 2 weeks and publicly exonerated two of the senior-most aides in the White House, Karl Rove and Scooter Libby. There was one problem. It was not true. I had unknowingly passed along false information, and 5 of the highest-ranking officials in the administration were involved in my doing so. Karl Rove, Scooter Libby, the vice president, the president's chief of staff, and the president himself." He's talking about the Valerie Plame scandal. Is that on the news? That Scott McClellan has just implicated the president and the vice president of the United States of America in a cover-up of outing a CIA covert operative by lying to their press secretary, who actually went out there and exonerated the leakers of her name, and that the leakers of her name included the Vice President of the United States and the President of the United States? Why isn't that on the news? There's another unsubstantiated terror warning. This would be Fran Townsend's parting gift to us. She says the elections are going to be attacked by Al-Qaeda. Bye-bye, I'm going now. Bye, Fran. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you, darling. Did you know Gonzalez was heckled? He's on a speaking tour now. He's making money, $40,000 to hear Gonzalez. He better come up with a better speech than I don't recall for 40 grand. But he got heckled at the University of Florida, and the media consolidation is underway during the holiday season. The last day for us as a public to comment on whether we're for or against consolidating the media on behalf of 2 giant media conglomerates is underway. Did you even know that you're supposed to be contacting your senators and the FCC right now to tell them whether or not you want the media in less hands or more hands? Why the rush, Kevin? Why the rush, Mr. Martin? Unless they're doing something wrong. The only time the Bush administration does anything quickly and efficiently is when they are actually trying to sneak something by us. Whenever they're doing something wrong, they do it quickly and efficiently and under the cover of darkness. Now, there was a meeting that was called in Seattle that lasted 9.5 hours, even with only 5 days' notice. Half the city showed up, screaming about the media consolidation plan. Here's a little clip from the meeting in Seattle.
Throughout the 9.5-hour hearing, members of the crowd slammed Martin for not giving the public enough time to weigh in.
I would like to thank the FCC and Kevin Martin, you in particular, for coming to Seattle on such short notice.
Running this hearing with 5 days notice and then trying to jam media consolidation through by mid-December, to me, is damning evidence by the total abuse of the process itself that you're up to some kind of no good. If this is a legitimate issue, then it deserves and demands a legitimate public process to determine the outcome. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves for not respecting the democracy you live in.
Other speakers said they're angry because they think big media is already too big and shouldn't get any bigger.
We told you a year ago when you came to Seattle that media consolidation is a patently bad idea. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So with all due respect, I ask you, what part of that didn't you understand? Do you think that another year of listening to the same homogenized, formulaic, mindless crap that passes for news and entertainment on the commercial dial has suddenly caused us to say, please, I'd like a little more of that?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think I heard them justifying, encouraging you all to monopolize the media even more than it already is? I mean, have I died and gone to hell or what?
I'm a Republican and I'm a capitalist, but some areas of our private sector must be regulated. Freedom of information is too important. We must be proactive in protecting that fundamental freedom.
So everybody agrees, except for Kevin Martin. Kevin Martin doesn't want to, hear what the public thinks. In fact, the rule changes are part of a plan to make the public think whatever corporations want you to think. You see, it's like they don't want us to know what's going on while they put in effect rule changes that will prevent you from ever knowing what's going on in the world around and about you. This way, if you have no way to get information, to counter the bad information, the wrong information, the lies, the unsubstantiated terror, the unsubstantiated, you can't bring a lighter on because, you're going to set your shoe on fire and the plane's going to go down. Well, now you can bring a lighter, but you got to take off your shoes. Soon we'll be able to bring our shoes and our lighters, and we'll be permitted to blow ourselves up at any time we want because who needs us anymore? They got everything they want. Less of us, happier they are. I mean, it's like they're trying to put control of the airwaves into the hands. It's like the foxification of the media. And believe me, conservatives don't want a lot of voices out there unless they're all singing the same tune. And that's the tune they call. That's what this is about. Now, if you think that this massive giveaway isn't a gift from conservatives to big media, then let's look at the Roger Ailes, Rudy Giuliani concept of what's been going on between those two. Fox has chosen its candidate in a primary for the President of the United States. No one in the Republican Party stands a chance on Fox News because Roger Ailes and Rudy Giuliani have a pact. They've been friends for 20 years. They've been business partners. They will actually fire somebody inside their own, cannibalize their own like they did to Judith Regan, if it means keeping Judith Regan out of the picture while Rudy Giuliani is running for president, because Judith Regan had an affair with Rudy Giuliani's hand-picked top cop, the guy who we sent over to Iraq to train the Iraqi forces and failed miserably, and then said he's the best guy for Homeland Security, although he's now an indicted crook. Judith Regan was having an affair with that man in an apartment that was rented for the 9/11 first responders to rest in, to get sleep in. Instead, they used it for their love nest. And Kerrick ended up cheating on Judith Regan and his pregnant wife all at the same time, and they don't want anything to be said. So they fired her and blamed it on her poor judgment for signing O.J. Simpson's book to her book label, which is part of News Corp, even though Rupert Murdoch signed off on that. Now it's in the civil courts, and it'll probably see the light of day, around the time Rudy's running for his second term. Don't you get it? It's just a big, stinking revolving door. It's suppression of information. How are you supposed to make decent decisions about the future of this country if you don't know what's going on in the rest of the world, and you certainly don't know what's going on in the political world here in the United States? 18 after.
The Randi Rhodes Show. Girl Gone Wild.
Wild thing, think I love you.
This is Air America Radio.